things off. It is 7 o'clock on Monday, October 3rd, and we'll call this meeting of the Sault Ste. Marie City Commission to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Gary,
Here.
Commissioner Bauer,
Here.
Commissioner Bastos-Rath,
Here.
Commissioner Miller,
Here.
Commissioner Rubenstein, Commissioner Talentino,
Here.
Commissioner Twardy.
Here.
Commissioner Rubenstein did call and say he was on his way back from Boston, Massachusetts, so wouldn't be able to make it tonight. So we need somebody to make a motion to excuse.
I will make that motion to excuse Commissioner Rubenstein.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor of excusing Commissioner Rubenstein, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? He is excused. If everybody that can stand, will stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I have no comments or general announcements this evening, so we will move right into item C, which is public comment. Does anybody in the audience want to make any comments on any of the scheduled agenda items this evening? All right. Seeing none, we will move into item D, consent agenda. And with us again tonight is Deputy City Clerk Erica Gordon. Welcome.
Thank you. Item 1 on the consent agenda is the approval of the City Commission meeting minutes of September 19th, 2022. Item 2 is the acceptance of the Airport Advisory Board meeting minutes of August 11th, 2022. Item 3 is the acceptance of the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority meeting minutes of August 9th, 2022. Item 4, acceptance of the Downtown Development Authority Board meeting minutes of August 10th, 2022. Item 5, acceptance of the Economic Development Corporation meeting minutes of August 9th, 2022. Item 6, acceptance of the Police and Fire Pension Board meeting minutes of August 17th, 2022. Item 7 is the acceptance of the Tax Increment Finance Authority 3 meeting minutes of August 9th, 2022. Item 8 is the appointment of Ruth Neveu to the Historical Development Commission. Item 9 is the reappointment of Marilyn Burton to the Historical Development Commission. Item 10, reappointment of Mary June to the Historical Development Commission. Item 11 is the resignation of Virginia Symbolist from the Historical Development Commission. Item 12 is schedule a public hearing for single lot assessment rolls SL.2N-22 and SL-2W-22. Item 13 is the consideration of MEDC Gatekeeper Grant. Item 14, consideration of a third-party oversight contract with Envirologic Technologies Incorporated for MAC Building Environmental Services. Item 15, consideration to submit letters of intent for Eagle for prospective grant/loan funding. Item 16 is the consideration of a request for tribal gaming 2% funding for Safe Routes to School project. And item 17 is the approval of consent agenda items.
Thank you, Deputy City Clerk Erica Gordon. Kind of a long one tonight. Would any commissioner like any of the items further explained or removed for individual consideration that are on the consent agenda? Commissioner Bauer.
I would just like to add that we should send a letter of thanks to Ginny Symbolist for not only the time that she spent on the Historical Development Commission, but also the fact that she's staying on, just to help out, despite the fact that she can no longer be on the commission per se.
So noted, and City Manager said he'll take care of that. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Twardy.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Support.
Been moved and supported to accept the consent agenda. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Under F, Communications, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight we have with us Emily Dorr from the State Land Bank Authority,
And we kind of gave you guys an email last week about what we're going to talk about, but there's some different concepts and tools that municipalities can take advantage of to encourage residential development. And the State Land Bank Authority is a big part of that process. So if you want to come on up, Emily, and grab that microphone right there, I will do your presentation slides for you while you kind of discuss it. Sorry.
Welcome, Emily.
Thanks.
Bonnie, you want to throw my screen up?
Okay.
There we go.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Again, my name's Emily Dorr. I'm the Executive Director of the State Land Bank Authority, and very pleased to be here. And there's going to be a lot of text on the slide. I definitely am going to try to answer questions, and don't mind you asking them along the way. I think that that's much better than you making you wait. So, development assistance for Sault Ste. Marie. Yep.
Try to talk into the mic a little
Oh,
bit.
yeah, sure. Normally I'm told I talk too loud, so, okay, great, excellent. So again, Emily Dorr from the State Land Bank Authority, and please feel free to interrupt me as you have questions. So development assistance for Sault Ste. Marie is why I'm here, to be able to talk about some of the tools that we can offer for you. Slide, please. The cost of building materials. So you might say, why now? And I wanted just to put this out there first. Building houses, perhaps even as short as 5, definitely 10 years ago, did not seem like such a question on everybody's radar as what it is now. And one of the reasons, there's quite a few, but one of them is that the cost of building materials has just completely changed in the last even just 2 years because of the pandemic. Lumber is back to relatively where it was, but beyond, other than lumber, everything else is still quite high. So that's something that if you wanted to index that to the increase in wages, you would not find similar levels. And so how do we have people live in houses when building materials continue to change? So there's got to be additional tools. There's lots of programs out there. There's lots of grant funds and loans and lots of things. I'm here to present some ideas that probably haven't been considered because land banking is a different way of looking at redevelopment projects versus just a normal grant or loan program. So slide. Land banking was created about 20 years ago when the Land Bank Act of it's Public Act 258 of 2003 was put into law, and that that's created the state land bank, and then counties from there could create their own county land banks, and through IGAs that exist. And in addition, the Brownfield Act, Public Act 381 of 1996, was amended to then be working together in coordination with the Land Bank Act. There are 36 counties that have county land banks, and the 46, and the remaining ones, we are your land bank partner. So Chippewa County does not have a county land bank, and so that means, yes, I work for the state of Michigan, but in the case of being the land bank partner, we are not the state coming to tell you what to do. We are here to provide you with support, both staff and toolbox support, I would say, as your land bank partner. And that's what we tell when people say, well, wouldn't it be better just to create our own county land bank? And I said, sure, if you want to pay to staff it, go for it. I love local control. I love local government. It's way more effective than state government, right? Just to be honest, because you are more in touch with your residents than what state employees are with residents. However, there's also, plenty of counties you can see that choose to use us as their land bank partner, and Chippewa County is one. If you want to start your own county land bank, talk to your county treasurer. That would be your starting point, and we actually would help the county start that. And so, as your land bank partner, slide, please. What does this mean for you? We are a toolbox, and that really, I want you to kind of think there's 3 different tools I'm here to present about what we can do for you, very specifically. And it's all about land bank ownership triggers certain things that help. Number one, land bank properties, by definition, are eligible to use tax increment financing. I like tax increment financing because it means that the project end user is paying their taxes. They're not getting a tax abatement. And those are two different things. And so by using tax increment financing, you are allowing for the upfront costs to be helped by new money that is created by the development. And that, is something that is oftentimes used, but frequently people might say, well, you can only use it for certain properties. If a property that perhaps doesn't qualify under other definitions is moved into land bank ownership at no cost to you, you don't have to pay us to do it. We put together the documents and make sure that the land banking agreement talks about what you'd like to see out of that. It qualifies. And so local units of government can actually utilize tax increment financing for certain eligible activities that would help get the project going on otherwise non-eligible parcels. So, slide. So specifically, here's a good example. So I say when I say infill housing, I just mean not all houses can be built on farmland that's outside of city limits. I don't think you guys would want that. You want houses to be built throughout your city limits, and some of that land maybe hasn't been developed before, but some of it has. It's previously had something on it, and perhaps is going to be demolished. Already has. It's vacant, and so that's what I mean by infill housing. It's potentially a scattered site, houses over this neighborhood and this neighborhood, and land bank tools can help with that. And there's a project in Kalamazoo where it actually took different parcels and was able to have a plan all around the community that politically made sense because it wasn't just building all new housing in one area. And the way that they were able to have the gap financing was because all of the parcels were moved into the land bank. This case, it was the Kalamazoo County Land Bank, but we did a lot of technical assistance on putting the deal together. And by all of them being put into the land bank ownership, they all could then qualify to use tools. And by tools, very specifically, there was lead, asbestos, and mold abatement that had to happen before the houses could be built, some demolition, some site preparation, infrastructure, which includes road, sidewalks, and approaches. And then there was also some other contingencies and they created a local brownfield revolving fund capture portion, so that way they would be actually, with the new taxes created, they'd bring some back in to actually have ongoing funds for future projects. So all of that they were able to do because all the parcels, slide please, were moved into the land bank. And I know this is actually really hard for you to see, so I'm just gonna say, basically it just shows that there's all sorts of different houses, different addresses on different streets. And the next column that I highlighted shows that some of them are eligible because they went through tax foreclosure. And others of them were eligible because they had a blighted structure on them. But some of them are eligible because they were moved into the land bank. And so then they all get to be treated the same, and so then the same vision for housing development, it can be treated across the board. So that's number one, is we can make parcels eligible for using this tool. Number two, what if a property's already blighted? Then you don't need to move it in because it already qualifies. That is true. There are some kind of, I just say, standard land bank tools: quieting title, exemption from taxes during pre-development, or even during construction, and then exemption from liability during construction. These are just things that were written into Public Act 258 that it was why land banks were created. It's kind of, when I talk about land banking, it's kind of a toolbox to say land is an asset, even if there's physical blight, even if there's environmental contamination, even if the market is upside down and financially it's contaminated, or financially it's not quite ready. You can use land banking to try to help develop it. And because again, if we see that land is an asset for which taxable value can be can exist, and then taxes are paid and pay for local government functions, land banking can really help. So these things are meant to catalyze development. Quieting title, if you have a beautiful piece of property and the title is a mess, you can go to like a non-land bank entity, and it would take 6 to 8 months. If it's real bad, maybe 12. We can do it in 90 days, and that is just part of our statutory authority. And then exemption from taxes and then liability, that again is part of how land banks were created, because we are meant to be able to be this, it's like a quasi-governmental arm of real estate, because everything we do is meant for public benefit. Land banks are not meant to enrich developers, and they are not meant to lead to projects that the public, specifically local government leadership, does not want. Absolutely not. That land banks are meant to be almost like you have a vision for land in your community, and land banks are one of the tools to go make it happen. And so, for example, in Negaunee, in Marquette County, I just wanted to bring this one up. This one was fun because it was an old mining site, 32 acres, and the senior housing entity that wanted to build, they could have just, worked with the county Brownfield Redevelopment Authority to qualify it to use some of the tax increment financing reimbursement for some of the things they needed to make the deal happen without putting it in the land bank. However, because it was such a long period of time, they put it in the land bank, which allowed for them, as the project changed calendar years, and they would have, if it was in their ownership, they would have had to pay taxes, and that was not part of their development actual pricing, because I think all of their money they were frankly putting into making it a very beautiful senior living facility. So it was a win-win, and now it's up and running, and the Marquette County Land Bank, again, that was one that went through them, but I thought it was a good example of just the why a developer would want to use a land bank tool. Number 3, and finally, it's about gap financing. This is a tricky one because it's a moving target. Gap financing oftentimes is the response to as labor changes, because you can say a contractor is going to do work for a certain amount of money, and then if you go more than 90 days, that's probably going to be different. And same with some materials, same with potentially perhaps the option expires that you have on the land. So you as a developer, oftentimes if you're trying to get a development deal done, gap financing can look different because of the way that time affects these numbers. And so Brownfield Redevelopment Authorities can approve gap financing for a project that provides public benefit, I come back to that every time, if it's in land bank ownership. And that's under the eligible activity description of assistance in selling or otherwise conveying the property. And so that's the language, and that as an eligible activity can only be qualified for the BRA to approve if it is owned by a land bank. So even if it's owned by a local government, it does not qualify. And that language, again, a lot of text, that's very small, but it is number 13, so it's the middle paragraph of the right column is where that language comes from. So, and a good example of that actually was in, next slide, in the community of Newaygo. So Newaygo County, so right here, it's no county land bank. So we actually were the land bank partner on this. And the city of Newaygo has its own Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. And this one was really pushed by the school district. Basically, they were like, we need to try to get more kids in our schools, and so we need more houses, and we need the houses to be sold at a level that a lot of the jobs around here, the wages that they make, they need to then be able to turn around and get a mortgage at that level. And so the Sable Homes owned 16 parcels, and the owner wanted to build them at a size and level of that would cost more than what he wanted to sell them at. And the local city BRA said, it is worth it to us because we know that when you can build 3-bedroom homes, times 16, I mean, that's, every kid is an additional, then $8,000, now $9,100 for our public schools in terms of the additional general fund for public school funding. So that was really an interesting project because, again, that shifted. It did, the gap stayed relatively the same in terms of cost of construction versus what they wanted to sell it at, but it shifted because of COVID. And so the builders' numbers, when we first did it, then did change because of COVID, materials and labor being what it was as they increased. So the price, the original price they wanted to sell them at did increase, but so did the cost. And so, but the flexibility allowed for that. So the State Land Bank is your land bank partner, and we are here to help you and your developers catalyze projects that provide a public benefit. So that's my first or half, I guess, because I'm here to say hi and tell you this, but it's not specific to any one thing. I think there's a lot of opportunities. We've been working with your city manager on some of the different city-owned parcels that you have and talking to developers all over the state, and trying to really make sure that we are being helpful. Part 2 is about blight elimination dollars that are guaranteed for Chippewa County as long as you guys submit applications. So I want to just throw this out there for you. In the fiscal year 23 budget, there was $21.5 million that did get approved for a competitive grant program that is meant to have funds spent all over the state. And so while it is competitive, there's also minimums that are guaranteed to rural counties with and without land banks, so long as eligible activities are submitted. So you in Chippewa County have $200,000. And I am just very excited to say that your application is due by January 31st. It was released last week. Slide, please. And eligible properties, so any property is in ownership of a land bank, or it can be a privately owned property, but it has to have blight. And we do have the definition of blight here. Again, lots of text, but this is all in the application. It's a RFP, request for proposals, that we put out. And if it is privately owned, then there would be a lien that is put on it to ensure that the investment that we are making in that private building, the lien is only released once that private building is actually renovated or is moving forward in the project. So that way, again, it meets a public benefit. And so yes, your application needs to, and because you don't have a county land bank, you as a community would apply directly to us. Whereas Alger County, if Munising wants to apply, the city of Munising has to go through the Alger County Land Bank. But because Chippewa County does not have one, you get to come to us directly. And January 31st, it's due. We will let you know by March 31st. And you have to spend the funds by December 31st of 2023. 3 things, next slide, you can spend them on. Demolition, stabilization. I think that one's very exciting because if you have a building or buildings that you want to have renovated in this community, but you don't quite have a project yet, the developer's not quite ready, the funds aren't quite identified, but you know you want to, you could actually apply and have a new roof put on to make sure that the building doesn't deteriorate over the next few years. Or there's a whole list, and I cut that slide out of respect for your time. But so stabilization is to stabilize a property that is identified for future rehab. And then next slide is the third activity that is eligible is environmental remediation. So the environmental remediation, match or gap funds for that. And so that's one that is oftentimes, what does that mean? So pulling out storage tanks in an old gas station, or if there was any soil, you have to swap out the soil because the soil is contaminated. That is eligible. So I'm excited for you all to submit your application. And there are scoring criteria. We want this to be a development catalyst. We need local support. Especially with blight, we know that public safety is a priority. So we do definitely want to make sure that if there's 2 projects that you're considering and one is higher on the public safety level, we definitely want to prioritize that. And then if leveraging additional investment, that's of course always encouraged. And I think that was my last slide. The RFP is linked there, and I will happily answer questions.
So just kind of boil it down a little bit. We're going to do the grant. Director Freeman and Director Sprecher and I are going to start working on that. So kind of skipping over that. But going back to the first portion of Emily's presentation. So the nuts and bolts of the program is we have a brownfield program, a local brownfield program already. And we've been working with the land bank now for about a year, better part of a year. And they bring something else to the table that we don't necessarily have access to. So some of those programs do involve us taking property that we currently own and moving it into the land bank, which opens them up for a variety of different tools. Not only tools that are permissible by state statute, but grant programs and loan programs as well. So, you know, the land bank acts as our partner when we're trying to find developers to come forward. And like Emily was saying, one of the benefits too is, you know, we have some scatter sites throughout the city that aren't designated as a park. So they're kind of up in the air in terms of what we want to do with them. We can put those properties in with the land bank at no cost. The land bank owns those properties. It opens up those properties to a variety of different development tools that a developer could utilize. If a developer comes forward and as they're moving on that project, the land bank retains ownership, so it's still tax exempt until either the land bank determines the project is sufficiently completed enough, or if it is a single family residential house, for example, once it transfers to the
New homeowner.
purchaser,
Yeah.
new homeowner, I can't
Yeah.
think of the word, I was trying to find something smarter, but to the new homeowner. And there's some interest. So Emily's colleague was up in July and gave a very similar presentation. And there was a few people that started asking around this. So we wanted to bring this in front of the commission, not only to introduce our partners at the land bank, but also kind of get some feedback on, is this something we want to pursue moving forward? When I sent out Emily's colleague's PowerPoint last week, I put a note in there, you know, we do have to kind of be careful with any kind of tax capture because it's not free money. I mean, essentially, we're gonna forego any future tax revenue into the general fund to support this development project. And it could be, you know, it could be 5 years, 10 years. I think statutory, probably up to 30 years. Is that right?
It's maximum of 30,
Yeah.
and you are flexible on the percentage you capture.
Yep.
So if you are excited about the new development, but you also are aware that that new development should have some additional revenue that comes into the city, you could say, well, we could do a 5-year full capture, or we could do a 10-year half capture. So then that way, the entire 10 years, we are getting 50% of new monies created, which then supports public services, and that is completely the choice of the local body.
Right. Yep. So there's a lot of different tools in there. Director Freeman and I have been working with the land bank, and we feel that it's worth a shot. I mean, we don't have a lot of developers beating down our doors and trying to come in here. So if there's something that we can do to try to encourage it, and like I mentioned, we do own not a lot, but a good number of properties that are currently not bringing in any tax revenue. So it really wouldn't hurt us to try to work with the land bank and possibly consider a tax capture to do any of the eligible activities. And like Emily was saying, it can be for site prep, wetland remediation, blight elimination, or it could be used as a gap financing mechanism to finish off the project. You know, it's kind of tailored to what the project may entail. And they could all be different, and there's a whole lot of different variables that we kind of went into earlier tonight with the contracts and all that stuff. But, you know, Director Freeman and I think it's a good tool and a good partnership, and it's, you know, it's one of the few things we got that we may be able to work for us. So.
Anybody have any questions for Emily or city manager? Thank you very much for the presentation, Emily, and I think it's a very exciting program, and thank you to City Manager and Planning Director for moving forward with it. It's one of those partnerships that Sault Ste. Marie really does need to pursue, and I think we've already reaped some benefit from listing the properties in the land bank and seeing some of the advertisements, RFQs, Ps, whatever they are going out, and trying to match up, some developers. And also thanks to Josh Billington. I think you brought Jim Tischler up a few years back, and we had a training session there, which kind of started the whole process. So, very good information. Thank you. All right, so we will move on into G, business items number 1. City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up first for commission consideration is a request to purchase stainless steel water main repair bands from Aetna Supply. This is a purchase that will be coming out of the operations budget within the water department, transmission and distribution supplies. We did get 2, maybe 3 bids from them. We are recommending with the low bid with Aetna. So we have a motion to award the purchase to Aetna for the amount of $13,496.74.
Thank you, City Manager. Anybody have any questions on the stainless steel water main repair bands? Pretty self-explanatory. Commissioner Bosbus-Rath, would you like to make the motion?
Certainly. Motion to award the purchase of stainless steel water main repair bands to Aetna Supply for the amount of $13,496.74.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Item number 2, City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission is consideration of awarding a bid to J. Rank Electric, Inc. for water plant switchgear and to amend the budget. So 2 motions with this one. We did put out an RFP. We received 1 quote back from J. Rank, sorry. So 2 motions here. Their bid did come in over budget. We originally budgeted about $20,000 for it. So we have a motion to amend the budget to add $7,000 and a motion to award the purchase to J. Rank Electric for $27,000.
Thank you, City Manager. Anybody have any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Miller, would you like to make these motions? They're 2
Certainly,
separate
Your Honor.
motions.
Yep, thank you. Move to amend the budget of $7,000 for the water plant switchgear evaluation capital equipment.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments on this item? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. G, business items.
Yep,
Oh, I'm
two
sorry,
motions.
second motion. Commissioner Miller.
Thank you, Your Honor. Motion to award the bid for water plant switchgear evaluation to J. Rank Electric Incorporated for $27,000.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And both motions passed unanimously. Under G, business items, number 3, City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to purchase a new chemical feed and transfer pumps from RS Technical Services in the amount of $28,268.58. City staff did issue an RFP for this one. We received 4 back. A couple of them did not meet specs or certifications that were required of the purchase. So staff would be recommending the purchase of the RS Technical Services in the amount of $28,268.58.
Thank you, City Manager. Any questions, comments? Seeing none. Commissioner Twardy.
Motion to award the purchase of chemical feed and transfer pumps to RS Technical Services for the amount of $28,268.58.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. G, business items, number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to purchase automated comfort control systems for the water plant. Kind of a goofy one here a little bit. So we got some quotes to get a better understanding of what the cost would be. It came back over a certain dollar amount, which required us to issue an RFP. We issued an RFP, and we didn't get any bids back from the people we got quotes from. So we went back on the quotes and asked if they would still be accepted by the contractor. So one of them was, the project is within the budget, so we're recommending the award of the bid go to, motion to award the bid to replace hot water pumps to automated comfort control for the price of $12,105 for the climate control project.
Thank you, city manager. Any questions or comments for the city manager? Commissioner Talentino.
Thank you, Your Honor. Motion to award the bid to replace the hot water pumps to automated comfort controls for the price of $12,105 for the climate control project at the water treatment plant.
Support.
We have motion and support. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Item 5, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to purchase SCBA's, not SCUBA's, for the fire department. City staff issued an RFP. We received 2 bids back, the low bid being Municipal Emergency Services. They did meet out to our specs, so we are recommending awarding the purchase of 3M Scott self-contained breathing apparatuses to Municipal Emergency Services, the amount of $42,378. And I said 3, but I meant 6 of them. Sorry.
Thank you, City Manager. Any questions for City Manager or Chief? With a smile on his face? Commissioner Bauer.
So moved that we authorize the purchase of 6 3M Scott self-contained breathing apparatus from Municipal Emergency Services of Sanford, Michigan, in the amount of $42,378.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. Item 6, City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request for approval of bid for topographic survey services for the Safe Routes to School program. As the commission is aware, the city was awarded the Safe Route to School program earlier this year. There is some engineering work that has to go along with the project. This would establish a budget and award a bid for the topographic survey services that would be utilized to develop the engineering plans. 2 motions with this one. Motion to create the budget for the project with a contribution of $21,500 from the gaming fund, and then award of the bid. Staff bid it out and received a number of bids back, with the low one being Ecker Surveying out of Sheboygan, Michigan. So staff's recommending the award go to Ecker Surveying in the amount of $21,450.
Thank you, City Manager. Any comments on this item? Commissioner Twardy.
Not to break our momentum up here or anything, but it seems like we've been talking about this for a long, long time. I know that about 8 years ago, because I've been here for 9 years with you guys now, 8 years ago I kind of brought an idea to Oliver, just sitting at that intersection in front of Sioux Area Middle School at Marquette in Minneapolis, and seeing the dangers there at that way back in the day. And so, you know, asked Ollie if I could at least talk to him about it, and then he brought this great program to the commission for Safe Routes to School. So it's taken a long time, but I'm really glad to see that it's been picked up and we're finally just moving forward on it. So good job on that to city administration. I'm really proud, and I can't wait to see our streets cleaned up for our kids to be able to walk to school safely.
Any other comments or questions? Might as well make the motion while the mic is on.
I will do that. I would love to. So it's 2 motions. So a motion to create a budget for the project with local contribution of $21,500 from the gaming fund.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? First motion passed. Commissioner Twardy.
Thank you. Motion to award the bid to Ecker Surveying, a Michigan firm, in the amount of $21,450 for a topographic survey as part of the Safe Routes to School project.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Item number 7 on business items. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to transfer some funds from the land sales reserve account in order to finalize the process regarding the form-based code in the downtown area. So this project started a number of years ago, and it kind of got derailed by COVID and some other delays. Community development has picked it up recently, trying to move it forward. We're at this stage where there is a completed draft out for public consumption, as well as a couple of public engagement sessions that are scheduled for this week, and we can talk about those in a little bit too. But the process will be to have the public engagement session this week, get some feedback, make any revisions. There'll be a couple more virtual public engagement sessions where business owners or the public can participate and give some comments and learn a little bit more about it. And then within the additional services, there will also be the consulting staff at the Plan Commission meeting, carry that forward, as well as the City Commission meeting to carry that forward to final consideration with the commission. And there will be a whole bunch of other activities outside of that, if it is adopted, that community development will have to do. But this kind of carries this proposal, and this budget amendment will carry the project forward to final consideration by the commission. So we have two motions. Motion to transfer funds, $6,800 from land sales to the zoning department contracted services line item, and then motion to authorize city manager to sign the included additional professional services with McKenna and Associates.
Thanks, City Manager. Any questions on this item? Commissioner Twardy.
Thank you. So going back 5 years, I remember when we first started looking at this in 2017. Can you, I just had some questions from a community member today. Can you just kind of highlight the benefits of form-based code for our community?
Yeah, so form-based code is a different approach than the traditional zoning method. So right now, our zoning codes primarily regulate use and a little bit of dimensionals and some building type of regulations. Form-based code kind of gets away from regulating use and condenses them into a handful of things, and then it's more focused on regulating the character of the given area. So this form-based code is going to apply only to the downtown area. So you've got Ashman from Easter Day down to Portage, Portage down to Fudge Row, and then Portage down to City Hall here, and everything in between: residential, multi-use, commercial, retail, all that stuff. But it makes it, the way the world works right now, you can't list out every single type of business within a zoning code and say it's permissible or not. For the most part, they are retail or they're something else. So earlier today, Commissioner Bauer asked me where something like a brewery or a bar would be. And I believe it is retail, as you mentioned. So it kind of condenses all that stuff, but it's heavy on the building side of things in terms of what a community wants to see in their buildings in the future. So there was some public engagement sessions back in 2017, 18-ish, somewhere around there. And I think it's echoed in the master plan as well, that primarily our community wants to preserve the historic nature of the downtown buildings. And so with that, the form-based code puts in regulations. It's still open in terms of certain materials, but it keeps the character. So the types of, or the size of windows, the type of accents, doors, things of that nature, right, Kelly? If I'm missing anything, you can feel free to come in and, okay, I'm doing good. All right, and then, so it preserves the historical character of a downtown, but moving forward in time, it also enhances that character, because if a new building was to be developed, you'd have it fall into this form-based code, which is kind of modeled off of our historical look. So, not to knock on anybody's building, but for example, the Osborne Commons building, has a little bit more futuristic look to it, and had a form-based code been in place that maybe wanted to preserve more of a older character, it would have had a different building design kind of requirements with that. And like I said, it applies to residential, duplexes, commercial, anything in the downtown area. So it's more, I guess in short, it's heavy on preserving character and carrying it forward in the future, and less about specific uses within specific buildings.
Okay, thank you. Good job.
That unwind it for you? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Bauer?
Just a couple of comments. And I understand the need, for the form-based code to a degree, because I hope we're all in agreement that you don't want somebody putting up a Quonset hut on a vacant lot, or building a shanty town, on the Templeton lot. We don't want that. But you also kind of have to question, if the restrictions were too much on the WOTA group when they were putting that together, would they have gone through with Osborne Commons? Also, I have questions. You take the building that I own, which is historically a gas station. Clearly, I wanted to change the look so that, the place where I make beer and wine would not look like a gas station anymore. And then I also wonder about the Alpha, because they've made some great improvements, over the past few years, and, where that would fall in, how historical is that? Would the Critzellises, and I don't know because I didn't talk to them about it, but, would they have gone through with those improvements if the restrictions were maybe too tight? And I think that these are all things that we really have to consider as we're looking at, as we finalize this.
And I would say a project like the Alpha probably fits in with the draft set of form-based codes. I mean, that's the look we're going for. Kind of the old architecture, big open windows, you can see all the way back, you can see all the people there. The Alpha is a good example of what we're shooting for. The form-based code doesn't freeze that look in time. So to use your building, if it, let's just say, for example, this was in place and it was still an older gas station, if you bought it and you were bringing in your brewery or your winery down to it, that doesn't mean you have to keep that gas station-y character to it. It means you'd bring it more to that, historic retail character.
He's getting serious, taking his coat off, so. Come on up, Kelly.
I do not have all of the requirements of the new draft code committed to memory, so I can't speak to what would need to happen in a specific situation like yours. But I would personally want to make sure that it was not obstructive in any way, but more of a guiding document. We're not looking to make everybody put the same homogeneous things up, but there should be some character of the original building left, but modified to its new intended purpose.
Kelly,
That was helpful
can
at
you give
all.
any examples of cities that have that and what their character is?
And I hate to go back to our old favorites. Marquette has two form-based codes adopted. Their first one was in 2009, and they have a more recent one. By recent, I mean about 8 years ago, 2014. And I know that Traverse City has a form-based code in their downtown as well. I'm not quite sure how old that one is, but I'm assuming it's more than a few years old now.
And I would assume Escanaba has one as well. So the form-based code's also really being pushed by the MEDC through their redevelopment ready communities program. Form-based codes, to a certain extent, to a certain degree, are required of that program.
Main Street is pushing it as well.
Yes, the Michigan Main Street program's pushing it as well.
Okay, but what about, say, 313, where they've undergone two dramatic makeovers on their first floor here in a fairly short period of time? I'm guessing that they both couldn't be right under form-based code, right?
I
Or
know
could
that the form-based code generally would like us to get away from using vinyl siding on downtown buildings, so at least that aspect of it probably would need to be, you know, put a different material in place of that, but I'd have to look at the specifics of 313. I've driven past it when they were working on it, but I don't know enough about it to be able to feel comfortable commenting in a forum like this as to whether or not that would work.
Fair enough. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Anybody else have any questions? Commissioner Talentino.
Thank you, Your Honor. I sat through 2 days of these meetings back in, I believe it was 2018, and I saw Kelly at these meetings. I really do believe the last 2 or 3 rounds of facade grants that we have issued, be it the Alpha Cadillac building, and I'm missing the others, they would all definitely fit in place with the concept that was taken, you know, and talked about at those sessions back in 2018. You'll take a look at those facade grants and you really see nothing's totally radical. It's kind of putting them back into their original historical state, I think is a good term for me to use. Kelly, would you agree with me on that? Okay. So I think to try to put some clarity in everybody's mind up here, I think if you look at those people who were awarded those facade grants and saw what they did to their structures, there's really not a whole lot, if any, difference regarding if that was on a code-based form situation. So, thank you.
Is that a motion? Would you like to make the motion?
Thank you, Your Honor. Motion to transfer $6,800 from the land sale reserve account to the zoning department contracting services line item.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments beyond what we had? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you very much, Kelly.
Motion
city
to
manager.
authorize the city manager to sign the included additional professional services agreement with McKenna and Associates.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Now, we'll move into item number 8. Somebody with a big smile on her face in the audience. City
you.
manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next is, for consideration by the commission, is a request to sign off on the CVB's recently awarded EDA Sioux Area Tourism Grant. This is a project that was brought to the commission, I believe, December, January of this year. It's a $2.5 million project that the CVB applied for grant funding through the EDA, the Economic Development Administration, to which they were awarded. The grant itself is just a little over $2 million with a local contribution of $500,013. The local match will be coming from the CVB as well as the grant administration, all other costs for the grant. This is coming to the commission tonight because we, as the landowner of the I-500 fairgrounds, or I-500 grounds, have to sign off as the co-applicant of the grant. But everything will be administered and managed by CVB. City staff will assist the CVB in putting together bids and reviewing any kind of engineering plans that may come up, but a lot of it's going to fall through their CVB and their processes. So 2 motions here for you tonight. Motion to authorize city manager to execute the grant agreement as attached, and a motion to amend the budget to establish a project in the amount of $2,565,000 funded by a federal EDA and a local contribution from the CVB.
Thank you, City Manager. Just for full disclosure, I am on the CVB board, but I have no financial interest in this transaction, so I will participate in discussion and vote. Linda, did you have anything to say on the item? That's all?
Oh.
Wow,
Don, you did it.
2 minutes.
No, I can just tell you that I've been working on it, and we've been working it for a long time. I thank Brian and everybody for what's happening. It's kind of a legacy for me in the back of, back when I-500 started and stuff. And we're moving forward on it, and it's going to be and we'll get the money. The money will be there, and we know how to get started. We already have a capital fund, right, Don?
We do.
Oh, yes. And so we'll get started, and we'll keep moving forward on everything. But thank you, and I hope that you will be in support of this, and we'll be looking not for you for money, but outside of us for money, and outside of Sault Ste. Marie. I mean, yes, local community can donate also, but we're looking outside money, bringing in new money. So, but thank you.
Thanks, Linda, for all your work and CVB support. I know there's a lot of money you've put into it, and one of the unintended consequences of this grant is that Linda has to work another 5 years. So we're glad to have her stick around. Any questions or comments from the commission? No? Commissioner Bauer? Okay, go ahead.
To authorize the city manager, Brian Chapman, to execute the grant agreement.
Support.
It does have motion and support.
Thank
Any
you.
questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Number 2.
All right, I also move to amend the budget to establish the project in the amount of $2,565,000 funded by federal EDA grant revenue of $2,052,000 and local contribution from the Convention and Visitors Bureau of $513,000.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Sounded good in that radio voice too, Commissioner Bauer.
Oh, thank you.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you very much. Thank you, Linda and the CVB. Number 9, city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is an agreement for cruise ship landings with La Sault Ste. Marie Historical Sites and Famous Two Locks boat tours, as well as a motion to increase the budget for the line item. Regarding this contract, this is a cleanup item. The costs have gone up because of the number of cruise ships that have been coming into the city. When this was first put in place with these groups, we were receiving maybe 10 or so cruise ships, but this year we had about 45 planned between this summer and the end of next fiscal year in the spring. So the costs have gone up, but on the side of that too, the revenues have gone up with the increase in cruise ships coming in. The city does charge for a boat landing fee as well as a per person fee, as well as water fees and anything else that we associate with the cruise ship. So 2 motions, motion to approve the agreement as presented and a motion to increase the budget line item to $93,100.
And for full disclosure again, I'm on the Sioux Historic Sites Board and have been treasurer for about 25 years, longer than I've served on the city commission. So, but I have no financial interest at all, so we'll participate in the discussion and vote. So any questions or comments? Commissioner Twardy.
Thank you. City manager, do you happen to have a cost of the docking fees along with the income, just so that we can see expenses and income side by side? Is that at a net loss or?
No, it's close to straight line.
Okay.
Yep. And
Okay.
I had this, the financial numbers that I had looked at today were going to the end of 8/30, and we had brought in about 73,000 in revenue and had probably about 60,000 expenses.
So when we can complete our Carbide Dock, Alfred Park project, is that going to change? And it will be more of a profit to the city. And I know this is just a pie in the sky wish, but it almost seems to me like maybe the cruise ship industry would have some skin in the game for helping with some of that gap funding that we're missing.
We have asked, and they
Okay.
have blessed us with any letters of support that we have required or requested from them, not required, requested from them. But they don't have any kind of funding like that. I'm
Okay.
sure they do, but they didn't want to hand it over. So.
Okay, okay.
But we made those asks. We made them to the cruise ship. Was there Cruise Ship Carriers Association or something like that? Yeah, there's been a couple of. Yeah, there's a couple of different
Okay.
associations that we made requests out to, but just didn't come in yet. But yeah, once they in a couple of years, when the carbide dock is
It's
done,
done.
then we won't have any expenses to it because we'll be using our
Okay.
own property.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Good questions. Any other questions? I know it, how many have there been, Linda? 45? 45 boats this year compared to minimal amounts in previous years. And I know from Sioux Historic Site's perspective that probably 17-18% of their traffic this year has been directly a result of the cruise ships. And I know that they've been going through the churches and through the historic homes, and they've been going downtown. So it really is making a significant impact on tourism in Sault Ste. Marie. So certainly is a great thing, and it's starting to grow and people are catching on. And I think that I've had inquiries from some people that want to pattern their business to service the cruise ship personnel. So I think that it's got nothing but upward potential for the Sault Ste. Marie. And we're lucky because Marquette's not seeing that activity. Houghton had some problems. I guess the ship is too big to go under the Portage Bridge. So pretty neat that we have a great venue, and we'll have that great carbide dock facility with all of the appurtenances and amenities that the ships will need, right? Commissioner Torty.
One more quick little comment. It's interesting how all of a sudden a working waterfront is benefiting us. That's mostly as a joke, but yeah, I love the cruise ships.
All right, any other questions or comments? Commissioner Miller, would you like to make the two separate motions?
Certainly, thank you, Your Honor. Motion to approve the agreement with La Sioux de Ste. Marie Historic Sites Incorporated and Famous Sulaks Boat Tours as presented.
Support.
As motion and support, any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Commissioner Miller.
Thank you, Your Honor. Motion to increase budgeted line item 101-593-801, contracted services to $93,100.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you very much. Done with the business items. So on to H, City Manager announcements and updates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few things for the commission tonight and the public. Parks and Rec Master Plan Open House is October 4th, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. here at the Commission Chambers. That'll be an opportunity for the public to come provide input on our current park system and to be utilized in developing our Parks and Rec Master Plan moving forward for the next 5 years. Another public engagement session coming up also on October 5th regarding the form-based code, which we spoke about earlier. First session is on the 5th at 10 a.m. here at City Hall, and then at 12 p.m. noon at City Hall as well. The DDA will be hosting the Halloween Spooktacular October 25th from 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. downtown Sault Ste. Marie. They'll have the trick-or-treating, and possibly a parade this year. So we'll get some more details out about that later. And last but not least, I will be out of the office October 14th through the 21st, and we'll be returning the 24th, Monday the 24th. And that
Thanks.
is all.
Thanks, City Manager. Anybody have any questions for him? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item I, which is matters presented by the public. Anybody in the audience have any comments or questions in front of the commission? Josh, you had a funny look on your face there. You want to? No? All right, seeing none, we'll go to item J, matters presented by the City Commission. Open it up to commissioners. Everybody's in a hurry, I guess, eh? Nothing, okay. So, since we skipped Commissioner Bospis Rath, we'll let you make the final motion then.
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor, say aye to adjourn this meeting.
Aye.
Aye.